Well, hello and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show. I am super psyched that you are spending time with me here today. I took 2 weeks off, so I've missed you guys because I was getting down to the final push of my book. Boundary Boss is the name of the book, which comes out a year from now. So April of 2021, luckily, with everything that's going on. But I had 2 weeks of just head down getting it done. So I can't wait to share that whole entire journey with you guys and the whole entire experience. But right now, I actually want to talk about what is going on. How are you? How are you managing the fear of the unknown that is most likely popping up? And I know it is because you're writing to me and telling me that it is. So that's what this episode of the Terri Cole Show is going to be about. And at the end, you'll be able to download a little guide that I've created for you, steps that you can take to manage fear of the unknown. Because we're not talking about embracing it necessarily. We're not talking about getting rid of it, right? Because we can't get rid of fear because this is a part of being a human being. But we are in an extraordinary circumstance that is creating more fear of the unknown. So on a regular day, when we're not dealing with a pandemic and sheltering in place and all of the things that we are dealing with, we have fear of the unknown as human beings. This is a hardwired experience, right? It's a physiological experience, and we're hardwired. It's very primal to associate the unknown with death, with mortality, with bad things happening. Because if you think about it, back in the day when there were saber-toothed tigers or marauding, violent tribes of people coming for you, if you were in a place that you didn't know where you were or you were not familiar with the geography, you would be more vulnerable to those things. So our body is so wise that it sort of held on to the fight, flight, freeze response. And yet, many of us prior to pandemic are walking around as if a saber-toothed tiger is about to rip our face off as we're walking down Fifth Avenue, which of course is not true. And we know the physiological cost of walking around in this heightened state of fear. Because really, all you need to kick up this response is perceived threat. So that can happen in a conversation. That can happen in a relationship, even if no one is wielding a weapon. That can happen at work. That can happen all day long. So understanding, right, managing your fear of the unknown has to do with understanding your fear. And being able to make a distinction between when are you actually being threatened and when are you just feeling threatened. So how has sheltering in place and COVID and a global pandemic that is indeed killing people, how does that impact our fear of the unknown? Well, as you can imagine, that is making it go through the roof. So I have some ideas for ways that you can manage it better. But let's start with understanding it, because I think that it's very tempting to want to make ourselves wrong. And I know many of you in my crew are super hard on yourself, more so than you would be on other people for sure. But this is a time to really look at your relationship with fear and your relationship with yourself. We have an opportunity right now, because this is not business as usual. And if any of you have been through a traumatic peak experience in your life, I was diagnosed with cancer in my early 30s, and that created, a ton of fear, obviously. But once I got through it, there was an opportunity, because I couldn't just be like business as usual while I was going through treatment and while I was dealing with, in my early 30s, sort of having to look at my own mortality in a way that I can't imagine that I'd be inspired to do if I wasn't in a situation that sort of forced me to do it. But it changed me. And I really do see it as an opportunity, and that it was the opportunity that really inspired the most profound pivot of my life. Having cancer had me pivot towards leaving entertainment and, becoming a psychotherapist, which I was already on that path. But it really made me know it was the right path and that I needed to take care of my body, not all focused on because it's about the size of my ass, right? More about being healthy. Because if you ever have a health situation, you realize that when you have a diagnosis that is threatening and scary, that literally there is nothing else but that experience. That is all there is, because that becomes the priority. I mean, unless you're in total denial, which I wasn't, you have to handle that. But it did inspire me to have big thoughts, existential thoughts about what did I want to do in the world and in my life. Was I living my best life? And the truth at that moment in time for me was that I wasn't. And so I do believe there is right now an opening because of the global situation that we're in and how connected we all are in this situation, that this can be an opportunity to have things change on a macro and a micro level. But today, we're just going to be talking about the micro level, because you won't be able to do macro or bigger changes if you are being bossed around by your fear, right? Your fear of change and your fear of the unknown, because that's what we're all facing. And listen, we're all in the same boat. Even if you're sheltering in place, we're in the same boat. You're an essential worker, we're still in the same boat. And yours is doubly scary because your life isn't normal, because you're suiting up and protecting yourself, and you're putting yourself in harm's way. And everything else has changed because probably the people in your life are sheltering in place, and maybe you can't even be with them. So nobody at this moment in our history can be like business as usual. And that's what happens. And that's the opportunity in a peak experience. And do not get me wrong, I am not being hyper positive about COVID or the pandemic. I'm real talk about what is happening. And the thing is, life is going on, right? There's going to be a year from now. That's going to come. A month from now is going to come. And so you want to think about, if you're one of the lucky ones and you're here a year from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, what was this all for you? Did you see it as the opportunity that, like cancer or the death of a loved one can be? Because from a therapeutic standpoint, it's as if the window for transformation, when we're in these extraordinary circumstances, the window seems to open up wide. At least that's been my experience as a therapist for the last 20-something years, that we could do a lot of work. I could with a client who was in a traumatic situation, whether it was a diagnosis or whatever it was, that there was all of this space because we're not operating on autopilot the way we do a lot in life, and not just you, everyone. This is a part of human nature as well. So I'm hoping that in this episode, I can get you to give you some ideas and tools and things that I know, strategies that have worked in the past with my clients and with myself personally, so that you're able to manage what is happening for you, your fear of the unknown that's happening right now. And then in next week's episode, I'll talk a little bit more how to sort of tap into the opportunity that this experience could be, the widening, the opening, what happens when we go through experiences like this. And I don't mean like pandemics. I mean like things that are dramatic, traumatic, and they change the foundation of the way we look at the world in our own minds. We are all in the process of reorganizing the way that we see the world, essential workers, I hope, from the sanitation worker to the cafeteria workers, to the people who are putting the things, the toilet paper on the shelf so you can then go buy it. Making these invisible things visible, and that is one of my hopes on a more macro level, that we'll never go back to being exactly the way we were before. But let's talk about you, and let's bring this home to you, the micro level of what you're experiencing, and what can you do? Well, first of all, you need to understand your fear and create space for it. It is prudent right now to have a certain level of fear in the moment. So let's make that distinction between present moment fear, meaning I will wear my mask and I will disinfect things and I will be sheltering in place to do my part if I'm able to do that, unless I'm an essential worker, right? So fear drives us to take these extraordinary measures we don't normally take. And that's a good thing. So that's the prudent piece. And then the experience we're in will then amplify the fear that you're experiencing, the fear of the unknown, because at this moment in time, it is unknown. We are forced to be in present moment consciousness right now because we only know as much as we know. We can't know exactly what 2 weeks from now will be. We're watching the trends. We're doing the best that we can to be informed, I hope, not overly informed, but just informed. But we're forced to keep it close. So the first one is understand, create space for your fear. You have a particular reason, just like I do, because we're all so unique, as to why this situation would kick up our own particular brand of fear. If you have a compromised immune system, if someone in your family does, like we all have our own stories. So there's different entry points to this experience of fear of the unknown, right? So cut yourself some slack. Know that these feelings are normal, and it's better, in my experience as a therapist, to face them head on than it is to run away from them. Yes, we want comfort, and yes, Netflix is fine, and yes, perhaps it is 5 o'clock somewhere or everywhere at some point in time. But if you are literally drinking yourself through, or edibling yourself through, or smoking weed yourself through to the point of not really being here, then you are missing out on an opportunity to be in your life. So I say, let's find the balance between. It's okay to self-soothe. We're all doing it. There's a lot of time in the day. I felt lucky. I was writing a book. I just handed it in. So, that took up a lot of time. So I was less desiring escaping or numbing than I feel like I might become. But cut yourself a break. Be honest about what you're doing. Let's try to find balance. Don't make yourself wrong for having fear. And be aware if you're being fully driven by fear. So the next thing I want you to think about is we have to limit the future tripping. It isn't helpful. There's a difference, right, between planning and preparedness and catastrophically projecting into the future. They're not the same thing. So I want you to be really aware of what you're doing. If you find yourself constantly being like, I don't know what's going to happen, I really want you to, I'll put this in your guide, a little cognitive behavioral technique that you can use to get away from this. It's important though, because I want you to, and this is the next step, set your intention. Because really this experience can either just be happening to us. So the pandemic is the tsunami and we're the little boats being like, whoa, I'm just trying to not drown, to the best of your ability. Just making this shift in your mind that you're going to set your intention to not just survive it, but learn something about yourself. Assess what's going on in your life, like I did when I was diagnosed with cancer. Are you living your best life? Are there changes that you've been saying you want to make, but you feel like I'll do it next week, next spring, next year, or never. So setting your intention to learn something is super, super important. Another way, moving on to the next step, is mindfulness and meditation. I'm always sharing resources with you around this because it is such an important part of my own daily mental health prior to sheltering in place. And now it's even more important in my life to be super committed to my daily practice, doing breathing techniques. And I'm learning things. I'll share this little exercise, this breathing exercise that actually isn't about breathing for calmness necessarily. But a friend of mine, Lara, who you guys know, Energy Lara, who owns the Central Park Energy Center in New York City, she shared with me an exercise that one of her students shared with her, and I've been doing it where you lay down, and it's super easy to do, but it's about expanding our lungs, because a well-oxygenated body is a healthy body, and it's really good for your immune system. So I'll just throw that one in just because I'm actually doing it and finding it very helpful. But the meditation stuff, you know how to do it. I'll drop a link in there for you to do one of my guided meditations. We really need to be focusing on creating more internal space, and that is what mindfulness and meditation can do for you, which creates the ability to be more responsive and less reactive, which is super important. The next step is gratitude. So having gratitude for the frontline workers, having gratitude for the small kindnesses if you are sheltering in place with people, being vocally grateful for everything that they're doing, using the lens of gratitude to look at what's going on in your life. It is so easy and kind of lowbrow, no offense, to just focus on all the crap that's wrong. You have a right to your feelings, but you also have to choose what lens you're going to get through these days with. And I say, have it be the lens of gratitude. What is right in your life right now? We're going to think about that and focus on that. And the last thing is your mental health. I want you to be mindful. Many of you have reached out to me about virtual therapy, about getting the support you need while you're sheltering in place. So I've partnered with BetterHelp. You can go to terricole.com/BetterHelp and see all of the information of this virtual service that me and my team and my extended family vetted for 3 months. We all had a great experience. They didn't know we were vetting. I didn't do it as myself. I really feel comfortable partnering with them, which, I don't know if you know, but I have not done with anyone because I don't normally. But this is something that I want you to have access to. So just go to terricole.com/BetterHelp. Many of you might already be in therapy and you're working virtually with your therapist. I hope so. Look at things on YouTube. If you're having particular problems, how to manage, if you're living with a narcissist, if you're living with someone who has addiction issues. There are a lot of people sharing tons of free stuff out there, myself included. So that's part of setting your intention, is setting your intention to do what you need to do to get through this the best way that you can. So mental health is super duper important. And I want you to know that we are all in this together. I am so grateful for each and every one of you who is being a good global citizen, and I know you are, doing what it is that you need to do, because you keeping yourself safe is you keeping me safe. I'm also going to share with you a link to a gratitude video that one of my girlfriends pulled together, and me and Vic and one of my nieces is in it, lots and lots of people. It's so beautiful. Please watch it. Let that gratitude wash over you and feel free to share it. Please do. We would love that. So I hope this added value to your life. Please, all you need to do to actually get the download is go to terricole.com/242. That is the episode number, terricole.com/242. We're in this together, you guys. I got you. Let me know how you feel about this. Let me know where you are. You know where to drop your comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop it there. If you're listening to this on the podcast, let me know what you think. Review it. tell me what's going on. Go to terricole.com and you can put your comment there as well. I'm here for you. We're all in this together. You're not alone. I hope you have an insightful, thoughtful week. And as always, take care of you.